All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you how to edit your HDR photos fast. Now, this technique applies only to HDR photos and for MLS. So this is not if you're shooting flash or flambient or if you're doing like high-end stuff. This is for people like me that shoot multiple properties a day and need to get their photos out to the client quickly. So for example, I shoot from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and I'll shoot anywhere from 4 to 6 houses a day on average. And then I have to get all those photos edited and delivered to the client by 9-10 p.m. that same night. So shooting multiple houses with different lighting conditions and whatnot is a pain in the ass if you're going to edit them individually. So you have to find a way or some sort of template that will work for the majority of your photos. And this is what I'm going to show you. So the first thing is we're shooting HDR. So normally I shoot 5 brackets with 2-stop increments. That works well. You could shoot however you want. This works for however many brackets or increments you're using. Now the smaller the photo the better, because when you're processing your brackets through something like Photomatix or Aurora HDR, the smaller the photo size, the quicker the program will be able to process your brackets and combine those photos. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna open up Photomatix, which is open right now. And I've already imported my photos. So I have a folder called real estate, and then I just have the date for today. So I dragged all my brackets here. Actually don't need these are just test shots. And so I have my 5 brackets here, just confirming that they're all lined up. I don't have any mismatches here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Photomatix, we're gonna go to batch bracketed photos, and then we're gonna select the folder, and we're going to go to pictures, real estate, 1211. Double click on that, and we're going to click select. Now the trick here is there's a ton of different options. Some people recommend using interior 2. I find that realistic actually looks much better. The difference is that interior 2 will blow out the windows less, but it will look shitty with like furniture, and the interior will be really like desaturated and not a whole lot of contrast. Realistic does a pretty good job, but the trick here is when it doesn't matter if you're using JPEGs or RAW files. JPEGs will process faster, and I do JPEG because what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the results as a 16-bit uncompressed TIFF file, which will give me it's essentially kind of like a RAW file. So once it's combined, then I'll be able to play with that final image and really move the highlights and shadows around. So we've selected the folder, we've chosen realistic, and now you don't have to, but you can. Image alignment, ghost removal. I don't do noise reduction, and we're going to choose to save results in a subfolder, save results as TIFF, and then we're just going to run that. And that shouldn't take too long to process all the images, but it is going to take a while, so I will just fast forward till it finishes. All right, and we're back, and I think that took like less than, 3-4 minutes. So this is a single property, remember that. Now that I have all my TIFF images in my subfolder here, I'm just gonna open with Adobe Photoshop. Now here is the trick. Everything is just gonna be done in the RAW editor. Now I do not open all these images individually in Photoshop, and if for some reason your images are not opening up in the RAW editor, I believe if you go to preferences, well, you won't see it from here, but if you go to preferences, you could set it so every image type opens up in the RAW editor before it imports into Photoshop. So as you can see, it was a pretty shitty day out, so these I will have to, or these exterior shots I would have to replace the sky. But here's what we're gonna do. we're gonna go to an interior shot. We're just gonna quickly look around, and we're gonna go to an interior shot here, and we are going to select all. And the cool thing about the raw editor is you can edit all the images all at once. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that all my lines are straight. So we're going to go to geometry. We're going to click constraint crop, and we're just going to go auto. And this should auto correct all the distortion in the lines throughout all the photos. And it should only take a few seconds. And that's it. So now all of my photos have been correctly aligned. Now the second thing is, and we're gonna use our histogram here. So essentially we gotta brighten these up. Now you can gauge where your photos need to be by this histogram, and normally what I like to go with is just like kind of to the right of center. So usually if you go just to the right of center, you'll find that it's a good exposure. Now it was pretty overcast, so the windows aren't too blown out here. In case like your windows are slightly blown out after you raise the exposure that much, you could just bump down the highlights a bit. But as you can see, if you bump them down too much, it starts really like darkening the image. So if you bump them down a little bit, that should help with the windows. You can bump the shadows up if you want, just a bit. I don't play with any of the saturation because the interior shots, especially when you do HDR, it adds a lot of yellow. So we're actually going to be taking away some of the yellow. You can play around with the clarity. Sometimes if you put just a few notches of clarity, that gives it a little bit of contrast. It looks good. For the details, I usually go with like 40 for sharpening. Color noise reduction, again 40. Now here's another trick, noise reduction. Even though my images aren't noisy, noise reduction for interior shots actually gives it a pretty nice look. So I'll hit it with like 15 on a noise reduction, and what that'll do is like it'll just smooth out everything, and it'll just give it, I don't know how to describe it, but it'll just kind of give it like a nice clean look. You won't see as much like texture on the walls and whatnot. So next, we're just gonna bump out. So the issue here is like we have yellow walls, so we don't really want to desaturate the yellow too much, but we do want to take down some of the yellow a bit. So we just bump down the yellow just a tad bit here, and this looks pretty good. So now what we're gonna do here is just go throughout all these images, and let's just start from here. So this is just our interior shots that we're going to be looking through right now. So this one, as you can see, the exposure is just a little bit too much to the right of center, so I just bump it down just a little bit. I left the fan on here, that was a mistake, but who cares? And also here's another trick. Let's say your windows are blown out, and the highlight, you don't want to bump down the highlight too much. You can actually just go right over to your adjustment brush here. And so in the adjustment brush, you can just bump down the highlights on the adjustment brush here, and then just brush over the windows, and then that will help with the windows being blown out. And you can always dehaze a bit. You can see what the effects of what that's doing. You just gotta be careful, you don't want it to bleed here, right? So you want to just add a little bit of dehaze and then just bump down the highlights on the windows. That works well. And then you can actually do the same thing for the ceilings. So like, let's say your ceilings have a little bit of color in them that you want to remove. You can then go to saturation, bump down the saturation a bit, and then just brush over the ceiling, and that doesn't look like it's doing too much. There we go. So now at first you can just apply it heavy so you can actually see what you're hitting and missing here. And so let's just really quickly, for the purpose of showing you, just do that. And then we'll just bump it down to a believable amount, and there, you can clean up your ceilings really quick like that. Okay, so we're just going to go image by image. Exposure looks fine. looks fine. Actually, bump down exposure a bit. That looks fine. That looks good. Looks good. And I'll show you too. Let's see. This is without the geometry fix. This is with the geometry fix. So it just does slightly fix the lines there. Again, this one, take that off and then apply it so you see what it's doing. Yeah, you'll see a lot of people don't really do that to their images. This makes a big difference. So image looks good. That's a little bright maybe. Looks good. And then this is essentially what you're just gonna do. You're just gonna go image by image and then just slightly bump up or bump down the exposure. That's fine, that's fine. Looks good, looks good. Maybe that could be a little bit brighter. Maybe that's, no, that's fine. That's fine. Remember, this is for MLS. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, there's a little orange up here, whatever, doesn't really bother me. It's not gonna bother the realtor. So just keep going. See, this one's overexposed. We're just gonna bump that down. See, the color is a little weird here. Sometimes when the color is off, like in the whole image, then you can just simply just go auto white balance, and then sometimes it'll fix it, sometimes it won't. Sometimes when it does auto white balance, it cools it down too much, so then you just go to your color mixer and just bump down the blues a bit, and then you get a better balance of colors, and you just bump that up a bit, and that's fine. This is good. This is a little bright here. Okay, and then see, the geometry kind of fucked up this image, so we're just gonna remove that. Oh, that's the original. Wow, look at that. That's the difference there. So then what we'll do is just we'll rotate this a bit just to straighten that out. That's better. This is overexposed. Boom. Okay, this looks a little weird. So let's just go auto, see what happens. Okay, makes a little bit too green. Take the greens down. We'll go to color mixer, take the yellows out. There you go. Again, let's just go auto white balance. Pretty much fixes it. Brighten it up a bit. The blues, take those down. Okay. Again, same thing here. Auto white balance. Take the yellows down. That's too bright, so we'll bump that down a bit. Okay. Same thing here. Okay, we're getting to the exterior shots. So all the interior shots are done. All right, interior shots are all finished. So now let's go to, we're gonna just highlight all the exterior because we don't want to apply the same settings to the exterior shots here, especially like desaturating the yellow. So we are going to bump down the exposure a lot more. And we're gonna bump down the shadows back to normal. The highlights we could bump down a lot for exterior shots, and then we're just gonna bump up like the vibrance and the saturation a bit. Yeah, these are pretty dark because it was just really dark out. You can see it varies from image to image here. So what we can do, and if there was a blue sky, we can just go to, we're gonna put this back. If there was a blue sky, we go to luminance and then bump down the blue, and then just make the skies bluer. So what we're gonna do here is just, we're gonna try to match the exposure correctly between all of these images, and we'll just end up replacing the sky here. So that's fine like that. Boom. That's good. Good like this. I'm just quickly eyeballing it, you know. And you could, again, if you want to match all your images instead of just eyeballing it, just look at the histogram. Okay, this one should be a little brighter maybe. A little brighter. A little brighter here. Alright. So bump this down. Okay. That looks fine. That's fine. That's fine. Bump this down. Again, and then what you could do too, if you're blowing out highlights, if you click this here, and then you raise it up, it'll tell you if you're blowing out highlights. So that's a little handy tool in the histogram there. So bump that down, that's fine. So that's fine right there. Okay, so that's it. So everything is done. Now we're just gonna quickly export these as JPEGs. And so what I like to do is go into that same folder, create a new folder called HDR. That's where my final images are. And we're just going to save these images out. We do need to do one more step, and that's replace the sky. And I'll show you how I'm gonna do that now. So we're gonna open up Luminar 4. Okay, so we're gonna go to Luminar 4, and we're going to go to the folder that we just created here, and we're gonna go to HDR. Now we're gonna take our hero image, and we're gonna go to sky replacement. We are going to choose, let's just see what this sky looks like. That's fine for now. Now the trick with Luminar and sky replacement is that, as you can see, it adds like some color cast to the image. So I don't want to relight the scene. This is what happened. So I don't want to relight the scene at all. And then I want to bump up the sky exposure all the way up. Now we'll do a few finishing touches. So in landscape enhancer, we can go to golden hour, just add a little bit more of that, warm feel to it. You can enhance the foliage, but it looks a little bit too neon for me. Next we'll just go to AI enhance, and it'll just look at the overall image and apply what it thinks are some good settings. You could enhance the sky even more if you wanted. This is a little dark overall, so maybe I'll bump it up now and then bump up some of the shadows and some of the exposure. And now we just select all the exterior shots, and we sync these settings here. And now all of my exterior shots are done, and the sky is replaced on all of them perfectly. So we'll just double check, make sure that the program didn't mess up anywhere. And yeah, look at that, totally different. Look at this image here. Let's go back here. Where was I? So yeah, I mean, look at the difference between like that and then this, Okay, and once these finish, I'll just open these up in preview and just delete the ones that I don't want. Actually, let's just go over that real quick. So once this finishes exporting, because essentially we're pretty much done now. All right, so now let's just open up everything in preview. And let's just quickly scroll through these photos. So I'd rather keep that. I like that shot. I don't like this shot. All right, so that's good. That's good. Good. I'll keep both. That's good. That's good. That's good. Good. Keep that. Perfect. Looking good. Got the fireplace on that one. This one's just lower, so I'll just delete the high one. And that one I did super wide, but whatever. Yep, I don't want this, or this. Alright, so we'll keep that. Actually, we'll delete this, keep that, keep that, keep that, keep that, keep that, delete this. Yup, two of these. Alright, and that's it. And and that job is complete. So guys, I hope you learned something. That's how I edit photos very quickly for real estate. This is a deliverable job. I think it took me maybe 15-20 minutes to actually shoot this home, and then I don't know how long it just took us, but I think that was maybe like 15 minutes. So like 30 minutes total, $150 job. That's how you do it, guys. All right, have a good one.